Activism Action Essays 1. Chapter 1. Activism Action Essays 1-6. Activism Action 1. I have sung the tune God Save the King and I have taught others to sing it. I was a believer in the politics of petitions, deputations and friendly negotiations. But these have all gone to the dogs. I know that these are not the ways to bring this government round. Sedition has become my religion. Ours is a nonviolent battle. We are not out to kill anyone, but it is our duty to see the curse of this government is blotted out. Gandhi, before the Salt March. Be intolerant with the intolerant. Some people get beyond capitalism enough to want to better the world somehow, which is better than being a self-centered, self-gratifying consumer who wants it all and wants it now, the way the corporate forces brainwash us to be. Activism is a desire and subsequent action to do something to help the world, people, or animals out, which is an honorable thing to do if you sincerely want to do it at some point in life. But the fact is that most people will not venture out of their comfort zones in their own homes, in their neighborhoods, to speak up and take action for something because they don't care enough to get beyond their comfort foods, material goods and their TV shows to do anything relevant with their lives for the world. In order to give a damn, the issue has to be one of anger, frustration, intensity, sadness, misery, pain, loss, or love. Something has to propel you to want to get out of your own little bubble to do something to help someone else. Some people get into activism for less than pure motives, which is fine as long as you are out there doing something. Some of it might rub off and you might get more serious about it. A lot of people initially get into it for fun, to meet new people and to meet possible lovers and mates. It's a good place for this. After all, you have to be somewhat of a good person to get involved in any type of activism or volunteering somewhere. Civil rights are basic, inalienable human rights granted to all persons in America via the Constitution, Bill of Rights and many other state and federal laws. The United Nations has a Charter of Rights for all people, but many countries ignore it and use their own laws. Very basically, rights are the following. Freedom of religion. Freedom of expression/speech. Right to privacy. Right to peaceful assembly. Right to bear arms. Right to due process in a court of law. Right to equal protection. Right to legal counsel. Right to travel freely. Right not to receive cruel and unusual punishment. Activism Action 2. Most people have something they'd like to change out in the community that may be minor or major, but they don't really care all that much. Some people are very angry about something out in the community. Activism can be as simple as campaigning to get safety bumps put on the roads near schools to protect the kids from dangerous and speeding drivers, or it could be as global as trying to save the earth from pollution or trying to stop wars. Most of us have a vision of how we'd like the world to be, but very few of us care enough to do something about it. On the other hand, some of us are so angry that we do destructive things to deal with it. Most of us won't do anything unless we're pushed too far. The French peasants were pushed too far when their queen made sarcastic comments at them back in the 1780s. When the white police officers were acquitted after beating Rodney King in 1992, the black people in Los Angeles, tired of the double standard, revolted for a few days. People are pushed too far everywhere almost every day, but they mostly feel like a power of an alienated individual, which is why we have high rates of crime, vandalism, murder, substance abuse, and suicides. The smart people find others like themselves, organize and do something about it. The other ones just take it like helpless victims. When the stock market crashed, I felt as though the brokers and insiders on Wall Street had pulled a fast one on the small-time investors in America. I expected to see a massive protest or a bloodbath, but I didn't see anything. That's because the silent majority are a bunch of whipped candy asses. They accept virtually everything the system shoves down their throats, even when it hits home and they lose thousands of dollars of their savings. This is the way they were conditioned, to not make waves, so most of them don't, even when the fat cats on Wall Street are robbing them blind with their fake stock hyping schemes. Back in the 1960s, the hippies revolted against a one-dimensional, black and white world. Some things changed. Women, blacks, and gays got their rights, but nowadays, except for a few small pockets of resistance to social injustice here and there. It seems to me as though the massive machinery of big government and corporate power have effectively conditioned most people to believe in making money and acquiring things as the benchmarks of happiness and success, and if there's any issue going on, they watch it on the news for a few minutes, talk about it for entertainment's sake and go on, working, buying food at the supermarket and watching silly shows on the tube at night. It's the bread and circuses maxim. Keep the masses occupied with good-tasting food and pleasant entertainment and they won't bother you, even if the world around them is going to hell in a handbasket. As long as they got a full belly and their momentary, transient thrills, they won't upset the status quo. Nobody really seems to give much of a damn beyond the parameters of their property, their neighborhood, and their community. Activism Action 3. If you want to change the world and confront the system in some way, you have to find issues that you believe in so vehemently that you want to dedicate time and effort to helping solve them. You have to be smart about it. There's power in numbers. Any individual, as a power of one, has to get the message out about his or her cause such that a lot of people hear about it and some connect to it emotionally because of the way you present it such that it touches them in some way. From this, hopefully monetary donations and people volunteering to help you will move you up into the kind of action you want to take. Whatever you do, don't do it half-assed. You have to organize things and think them through. Don't organize a protest unless you're certain you can get a reasonable number of people to show up, and don't forget to send press releases out to the media so that some of them will come out and cover it. Don't use cheap gimmicks sometimes called publicity stunts. Be very serious about your cause. Some participants and volunteers will be there just for the ride, to make the scene, to meet chicks and guys, which is good for them. Accept them on their terms but don't deviate from your message. Stay angry and frustrated. Anger is a great source of energy to get things done. The definition of activism is to get your message out to a lot of people and hopefully use some of them to propel some changes in the way things are done. Think of it as a twofold mission. 1. To raise public awareness of your issue. 2. To get some big hots somewhere, either the government, corporate heads, or institute leaders to do something to change the system. Your job is always to present your cause to the public at large in such a way that they will be sympathetic, and some people might even get up off their butts to support your cause and make minor changes in their lives. Just like in business, companies find what target market appeals to their product and direct their advertising at them. You have to do the same thing. Determine what demographic groups of people appeal to you and try to influence your target efforts at them. Study them. Try to understand them. The two cardinal sins of activism are: 1. Talking or protesting for your own ego, not for a bona fide cause. 2. Taking liberties with the public or destroying the property of innocents needlessly in the midst of a protest. If you're picketing Corporation X because they're clear-cutting the forests, what's the good of breaking the windows of the nearby shops? It just makes you look bad. If you destroy anything, destroy Corporation X's property, especially a symbol that would look good on TV, like setting one of their vehicles on fire, tearing down their signs, vandalizing their billboards, destroying their website, etc. People have voting power. Politicians know this and are deathly afraid when they see anyone with large numbers of people on their side. This is your power, the power to influence certain elections or, in effect, blackmail politicians, to either support cause Z or else risk being voted out of office. You have to tell them that in so many words, either face to face or in a letter. Be relentless. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. One protest is not good enough. You often have to keep at it until you get results. You have to be persistent, wear them out so they will do what you want just to get rid of you. Activism Action 4. As a citizen of planet Earth, it's your responsibility to learn about yourself, your community and your planet. After all, this is where you live. It's easy for us to live our comfortable lives and be oblivious to the fact that we're using up our natural resources and could be polluting the earth to the point that the damage is irreversible. We are alienating large numbers of people in non-westernized countries who are envious of us, some of whom want to destroy us for any number of reasons. This is not the way Mother Earth or God wanted us to be. It reminds me of that line, the main character Nick says in the 1999 New Zealand movie What Becomes of the Broken-Hearted about an aging Maori guy who has alienated everybody because he can't find his place in the world between his Maori roots and modern civilization, but even though he has degenerated into an angry, lost, broken soul with nothing left, he has one moment of redemption when he says, "I just want to do something right, just once." It shows that even the most wretched, callous, and insensitive among us have some goodness in their souls. All you have to do is reach in, search yourself for the right thing and do it if you got the guts to be true to what you feel is right inside. The world will never be perfect, that's a fact. Many of our great leaps forward in humanity have been made by individuals who believed in what they did so strongly that they risked their lives for it. Our lives these days are nothing in terms of hardships next to the hardships of the great visionaries of the past. Who do you consider yourself to be, a visionary or another one of the huddled herd of lost sheep, comfortable with your mundane life of pop culture TV, junk food, and useless trinkets from the mall? Get real. Get a life, your life. Activism Action 5. The purpose of all protest is to get the message out. If you do it in a void with no orchestrated media coverage, you're a fool. There was some guy several years ago who wanted to go across America in a wheelchair to raise money for some disease. He was so naive and stupid that he just took off on his own with no publicity. Nobody knew who this nut was wheelchairing down the road, so cops stopped him, cars stopped him, thinking he was a helpless cripple trying to get to point B, offering him a ride. He was so unorganized that he barely had a room to stay in or the money for food every night. I heard about him after he got over halfway across the country when someone phoned a particular radio talk show about this guy, and the radio talk show host decided to help him out for the rest of the journey. Only then did people along the rest of his route help him out, but the thing is that it never caught momentum. He didn't have a good promotion/publicity machine, some loudmouth public relations guy setting up media ops for him at major stops along the way. Companies routinely spend millions on advertising and publicity. The game is exactly the same when you're promoting a cause. There's an older movie out there about Terry Fox, the Canadian guy who tried to run across Canada on one leg but succumbed to cancer beforehand. Robert Duvall, the somewhat famous actor, played the role as the PR guy for the Ontario Cancer Organization, the smart, street-savvy guy who got the publicity for Terry. They portrayed him as somewhat of a slickster in the movie, but he was the mover, doing his job getting media coverage and public support. Whenever you organize some kind of activist event, go through official channels to try to get a permit, to tell them anyway even if they won't give you one. If you feel you don't need one, tell the cops anyway, because they will probably show up for security, which is good for you in two ways. 1. You have security there in case things go wrong. 2. Cops attract the media. City officials might even wheel out a couple of portable bathrooms and have some ambulances on standby just in case. If you don't tell these people, they won't know what's going on, show up on the scene, see a disturbance and start arresting people. I'm not saying play by their rules. Obviously, they don't want you to protest and may try to thwart it by giving you a low visibility place to do it, a low visibility time, etc., but you don't have to listen. If you know for sure you will have a lot of people, you got the power to set your place and time, just call up City Hall and the cops a day before and tell them there's gonna be a group of people protesting for world peace or whatever at the corner of Cherry St and Freedom Road at 12 o'clock Friday afternoon. Be aware that there may be more than one law enforcement agency policing a certain area. If you're planning a protest on a college campus, you should inform both the city cops and the campus cops. In general, the people in the government are not evil, just low-level, cover their ass bureaucrats out for themselves. The cops generally aren't evil. They're just blue-collar people doing a job. Many corporate heads aren't evil. They're just out to make money. Try to treat these people with some respect. Oftentimes, it's easier to get things done by being nice rather than being an antagonistic battle axe. This is the art of diplomacy, manipulation by being nice. It doesn't work all the time, but it's worth a try before you get nasty right off the top. Being out there peacefully is one thing, which is the Gandhi method, and works if you've got large numbers of people like the people of India who shut down the wheels of industry and business against the British in the 1940s. But nowadays, for the media to respond, you have to be loud and big. It's as easy as blocking a main road of traffic with 100 people or so. The only disadvantage is possible arrest and the media branding you as a misfit with a stupid cause if you don't present it well enough such that the media sees the legitimacy of it and lets you voice your opinion. They often like to portray people and causes as radical fringe nutcases because it makes for good copy in the news, even if you are a sensible person with a legitimate cause. If you don't tell the cops beforehand that you plan to block traffic or take over a public building, they might show up in riot gear, but if you tell them, a few will show up just to direct traffic until it cools down. If you expect that there will be violence, antagonism, and arrests, plan for it the best you can in advance. Activism Action 6. Corporations are driven by the bottom line, to make money, so some activists try to target what they perceive as unethical corporations by cutting into their profits through covert, criminal means by blowing up their buildings, destroying their machinery, letting their test animals go, destroying their computer records, etc. The downside of this is that the corporations and most elements of the media will brand you as criminal nutcases. The anti-abortion people and the people against the use of animals in science experiments have been vilified in the media because of the criminal actions of some of their members. Try to be an activist, not a terrorist. Probably your most powerful tool is to unite with as many other people and like-minded or sympathetic organizations as possible. There should be individuals like you who feel the same way you do about your issue, other organizations doing the exact same thing, and similar left-wing type organizations who will help anyone under the general banner of social justice and environmental issues. Greenpeace helps almost every activist cause. Find these people. Unite. Join them, ally with them, or have them join you. Start a website. Email all these groups. Link your websites with each other. Agree to help each other with protests and publicity campaigns. The media is generally TV, radio, newspapers, magazines, internet, billboards, posters on lamp posts, handing out flyers, etc. Think up ways to get into all relevant venues and do it. In a protest, the law enforcement side looks menacing. Drown them out by making big banners and placing them at your front lines so that your people can't see the opposition and get scared off. Use drums to drown out the sound of the police hitting their shields with their batons and to help your group with marching. Use your weakest people to hold the front line banners, generally, young women, kids and old people, so that if you get the cops mad enough to attack, have your cameras ready to show them beating on helpless people. Pick your moments to strike. All those great seemingly spontaneous movements around the world where it looked like the protesters stormed the parliament buildings were planned out. They weren't spontaneous. You need clear leaders pulling the strings. If not, it will degenerate into a mob. Keep the people busy with tasks and even entertainment to keep them there in good spirits. The protest in the Ukraine worked because by the time the cops came in, there were hundreds of thousands of protesters. When they tried the same thing in Azerbaijan, the cops were ready. They swooped in, attacked the leader right on the podium and started relentlessly beating on the people until they all ran away. You need video people taping whatever happens. Have a few out in the open and a few taping with hidden cameras. Even with the tapes of the Azerbaijan defeat, it still did nothing to get world leaders to openly criticize their government with its pretense of a democracy run by a dictator. I saw it on a CBC documentary. The world community should be united and strong enough to go in and topple all such unjust governments. Personally, I think you need a certain number of people in order to intimidate the cops, like a 20:1 ratio. The cops at the corner of Florence and Normandy in Los Angeles knew that the people would have jumped them and strung them up if they had tried anything because they were grossly outnumbered. Get video of the Ukrainian Orange Revolution to see what they did. Study the Polish Revolution of the 1980s. They set up a tent city and got funding from many private outside sources. They had their own journalists to document it for the news coverage. Have a simple pin, flag, hat, or flower almost everybody can wear to show solidarity. Find the left-wing media in your city and go to them to promote your cause. There should be at least one newspaper and a radio station, often the college one.